software engineering, mechanical engineering, electrical engineering. It's all engineering. You're just solving problems. So these are the
That's a
very,
good definition of engineering from today
yeah,
onwards.
I think so. And I view everything through that same paradigm. I mean, you're looking to solve a problem.
I agree with that many companies failed. They were trying to do everything on their own and they got stuck into the operations.
Yeah, that's it's an easy trap to fall into, especially as VC money is flowing. That money has to be invested, and it's very easy to just take on a lot of different projects.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ali. I'm the CEO of Al-Burraq Technologies. This podcast is presented to you from the platform of Techstar Magazine. Today, again, we have a very good Techstar with us, Jack Al-Kahwati. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. Nice to be here.
Okay. Thank you so much for coming and joining us for today's podcast. Okay, Jack, first of all, please introduce yourself to the people so that they can understand what you have done and your successes. Please go ahead.
Sure. So my name is Jack Al-Kahwati. I'm started off as a mechanical engineer. I always grew up with a love and interest and in passion in just sciences and technology. And I started off my career as a mechanical engineer in the aerospace industry. I designed airplanes, commercial airplanes, tanks for the Army. I've done military helicopters. I've worked on cell phones prior to starting uh, my company Lattice, which is a mobility technology company. And yeah, I mean, I've tried to do everything that I'm passionate about. I pursue as much as I can, and right now I'm 100% focused on building uh, a platform for mobility.
Yeah, right. That's kind of very diverse experience. And I would definitely going to ask you that from the engineering background into a tech background and starting your own business. So, what was the motivation behind starting your own business?
I had originally moved to California from Seattle,
Okay.
and I worked on a military contract that eventually was canceled, and so I was laid off, and then took a position in the East Coast. So I moved to New York, and I'm originally from Canada. I grew up in Montreal, and so I know what cold weather is like. And so after returning back to the East Coast and the cold weather, I said, never again. I cannot handle winter anymore. So I came back to California, and there wasn't at that time many mechanical engineering jobs available. So I decided to connect with other technologists, and kind of the product that we landed on was a mechanical product. We built the first connected bike lock on the market in 2013, which was called Ellipse Lock, and it was a Bluetooth solar powered lock that would self charge, completely harvest energy from the sun, and it would just run indefinitely forever. And we even had a touchpad on it. I mean, it was an amazing product, and that's kind of what got me my foot in the door on the technology side.
Again, that was one thing, right? But then you moved into a lattice, which is purely a tech side. So, what was the motivation behind that? Because previously, what you were doing still involved engineering, right? But then lattice was an entirely different thing. Is that so?
Well, I think software engineering, mechanical engineering, electrical engineering, it's all engineering. You're just solving problems. So these are the
That's a
very,
good definition of engineering from today
yeah,
onwards.
I think so. And I view everything through that same paradigm. I mean, you're looking to solve a problem, and whether it's through code or through a electromechanical device, at the end of the day, the process of solving a problem is the same. And so these skills transfer, uh, very easily. And if you're a lifelong learner and you like to learn new things, I think it's very easy to just learn a new skill. I mean, I've learned infinite amount of skills. I'm a professional learner, so I'm very adept at learning new things, and I enjoy it. So I just do things that I like.
Right. So, what kind of solutions Lattice is offering? Tell us more about those solutions.
Yeah, so Lattice, we initially began Lattice as a smart connected lock company. And then after COVID, the supply chain became very difficult with China. We weren't able to travel over there anymore. So it made sense for us to pivot into the software side of the business, which was something that we were building in parallel because we had a lot of customers that wanted to use our smart lock to be able to share their bikes. And so we decided to build a fleet management platform just for micromobility because that didn't exist at the time. And then we eventually fully pivoted to that business after the hardware business became extremely difficult to operate in. And so what Lattice does now, it's a fully comprehensive fleet management and rental platform. It enables anybody that's looking to share a fleet of vehicles, be it bikes and scooters, or Teslas, or even robots in the future, and off-world vehicles. We feel could all benefit from being able to manage the fleet efficiently and to optimize how the resources are spent. So in a model of like micromobility, for example, you would want to rebalance the vehicles. You would want to make sure that the vehicles are charged. You want to make sure that the vehicles are maintained. You want to put them in areas that are going to generate massive usage. You want to rebalance them. So it's basically an optimization problem that you want to run. And on top of that, you have to be able to interface with hardware. You have to be able to take payments. You have to be able to do analysis of data. So it's a very comprehensive and complex problem. But when you put it all together, you're able to generate new business models. You're able to create new services, and that's what I'm pretty excited about.
Right. So, so you are selling it to the businesses. It's gonna be a B two B, right?
It's a B2B to C kind of model. So we build the tools for
Okay.
the operators that in turn will provide that service.
Okay. Okay. Any plans to move forward toward B two C as well in the future?
Well, I think fundamentally we have kind of this thesis that the B2C model, at least for fleet management, is not a business that we want to be in. We've seen kind of this business is uh, it's a it's more operations than it
Mm.
is
Yes, I agree with that.
technology. And I think our business is more of a technology business than it is an operations business. So we really want to focus on that part of the value.
So basically, you are targeting to the rental companies. You're targeting to the people who want to rent out their fleets to their own customers, right?
Yeah, and this year we really started a strong focus on B2G as well, going directly to
Right.
governments to
Right.
be able to implement these systems because ultimately we see all types of shared mobility services as something that the governments need to run themselves. We see that with buses, we see it with trains and subways and all of public transit. But car share, micromobility, these are separated, and I think that it could benefit from having kind of this more integrated approach where you could use your same key card to be able to rent a bike as you do a bus and a subway.
I think B2G has a lot more potential than B2B. I agree with that because why I'm saying that is because public transport is directly handled by the governments, right? And if you can integrate that complete system, right, and integrate Google APIs with that, Google Maps or Places APIs, Google Routes with that. What will happen is that if you are going from point A to point B, it will give you a complete estimation that at this point you have to you have to go by foot. At this point, you have to go by bus. At this point, you have to take this train and these train schedules are these, right? So I think it will make a lot more sense. And I know that in the in the first world country, these solutions are there. They have already integrated, but in the other parts of the world, these solutions are not integrated from at all. So there's a lot more potential in B2G if you talk about fleet management properly. Then I think that's gonna make a lot of sense.
Yeah, yeah, that's I mean that's kind of been my vision, and we're seeing it play out now. I mean, there's been, I think in 2017 a lot of unicorns, I think, in mobility that have tried to do this vertical integrated model, and I've seen China fail with this model. We've seen countless of U.S. companies now fail with this model. It's because I think these companies are really building multiple companies at one. They're trying to build a vehicle, they're trying to do operations, they're trying to do technology, and they're trying to make it profitable. So when you add all of these constraints, it becomes very difficult in a highly regulated environment. So the PPP model makes sense if you can get these cities and mayors to understand that it is something that they can easily implement themselves and not have to use third parties to do that. And we're hoping to be able to convince cities to take this approach.
I think that's a right observation, that when you are trying to build a lot of things on your own, that eventually you kind of stuck, right? And you can't focus on anything. So that's, I can second that. That's a right approach to focus on the business, on the core business, and build on top of that. So I agree with that. That many companies failed because they were trying to do everything on their own, and they got stuck into the operations.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's it's an easy trap to fall into, especially as VC money is
Yeah.
flowing. That money has to be invested, and it's very easy to just take on a lot of different projects. But ultimately, this business is something that operations, I think, is the ultimate leverage to be able to make or break a business. And if your focus is pulled into many different directions, you lose sight of what's important.
Hmm. I completely agree with that. You talk about data analytics, and you said that you have to review a lot of data, right? That means you're already working in the AI, and you have integrated those things. Tell us about that. How you are using AI in Lattice, and what is the impact of the recent updates or recent advancements coming into AI field. So tell us more about that as well.
Yeah. So, I mean, right now, Lattice, is able to capture a lot of data. We got
Yeah.
location data, we got data about the customer, we have data about where they're going, we have, data about the vehicle. And so, once you have all of this data, it's great. You could provide that data, you can, show graphs of that data. And so you can kind of get some insights. Okay. You can kind of get an understanding of like, what is the usage rate of your fleet? Are people using your stuff often or not? But then now with the new AI tools that we have, we can really dig deep. I mean, we could provide 30 custom insights on your fleet based on the data that we currently have. You could do cohort analysis. You can go extremely deep. You could figure out what one group does versus another. You could figure out when you got to do maintenance on your vehicles in advance to be able to keep your fleet operational. There's a whole host of things that levers that you can pull that you probably didn't know intuitively, but with the data, it shows it. And I know how previous companies have done it. I mean, it's really, you got kind of your thumb in the air, and you're just trying to figure out like, how do you shift these resources to be able to get maximum usage? But it's just based on intuition. It's not a data-driven approach. And with the AI tools now, we can really provide, very granular insights on what the operator needs to do to maximize, their revenues, minimize, expenses, and then ultimately drive profit. And and this business is it's a pretty low margin business right now. All of these companies that are running are barely breaking even, and it's not a function of you know um, the hardware is not good or the software is not good. It's just there is no way of being able to optimize the system manually. There's just too many variables. There's weather, there's the vehicle itself, there's what's going on in the world, what are your competitors doing, what are the other options for the users. So it's just a multivariate problem that you a multi-variable problem that you want to optimize, and Lattice does that now. And so you can take something that is getting very low usage, and maybe you've flooded the market with lots of vehicles, but you're not seeing an increase in revenues. Or maybe you are seeing an increase in revenues, but you're seeing also an increase in cost, and so your profit stays flat, or it barely moves. But if you implement some of these insights, now all of a sudden you're getting like a 500% increase in usage. And so there's ways to really maximize the system without having to do this brute force method, which is flood the market with more vehicles, because that ends up just flooding you with more expenses as well, and really can never get behind it.
Yeah, it burns a lot of capital. I agree with that because when you are flooding your fleet in the market, that is burning the capital in the market. But one question I do have about is which is being discussed a lot these days, AI and its ethical issues as well. Like you said that you have many data points, and right now. Right now we do not have that much strict regulations as well, but eventually those things are also coming, right? So that means we will have to keep updating our policies, our vision, according to the policies, according to the whatever regulations governments are going to introduce. So what is your vision regarding that? How much usage you're going to allow your company, and what you are looking that what is going to be the limit of using AI, if there is any?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a very regulated market, and there's different rules in Europe than there are in the U.S. right now, and so we are managing that, and in some cases, like maybe you don't want to have GPS, tracked vehicles, right? It could be on a private campus, and you have sensitivities around being able to track employees, for example. So that's okay. You could turn those things off, and so yeah, you will lose like some ability to optimize the system. But optimizing the system isn't always the goal either, and so I think we've designed our system to be so flexible because we've encountered essentially every problem over the last decade building mobility systems. We've done it on corporate campuses, on military bases. We've done it on universities, in cities, and every single one of these cases has some nuance to it where they're all a little bit different, and we've had to build tools to adjust our system to be able to handle that. So I think we've come across a lot of different solution problems, and we have a pretty good grasp on how to solve them. But yeah, I think there is limits to what AI can do, given kind of these regulations. But I think ultimately, the goal is still the same. It's just to try to just maximize efficiency, and through that lens, operators and customers alike, are looking to have kind of more efficient transportation. So I think in that context, these are are problems worth solving.
Okay. Okay, let's talk about the journey of Lattice, right? Tell us the hardest point or hardest time you had in the journey of Lattice.
Probably shifting from hardware to software was a big pivot for us. At the time, we were working with Lyft, where we co-developed the first Lyft shared e-bike, where we were building in our hardware into their bikes. And then, given kind of the realities of supply chain, and and hardware is always known in kind of the startup business as being kind of the double black diamonds of building a company, because not only do you have to deal with supply and demand, and trying to build a business, but the distribution is extremely difficult, because you have to outlay real money to be able to build product, and then you have to manage the inventory and the transportation, and it's just a lot of extra problems. And it is a very difficult business. And then to pivot away from that into software, in one way it was is freeing, because we didn't have to worry about a lot of that, but we also did have to write off a lot of tooling, you know a lot of our business, ultimately, to make that switch. But I think what we did early on is we really focused a lot on intellectual property, and so coming out of that, we still had, I think, 13 issued patents on the lock, on the mechanism, on the connectivity, on the method of how it connects. So essentially, any smart lock that you can interface with a phone or through a server, that authenticates and connects to a hardware device and is able to send an unlock signal. Like, this is all intellectual property that Lattice owns, and I think we're very proud of that. And so ultimately, our hardware business, even though that's been kind of shut down, we still maintain the intellectual property of it.
So that means you overcome that problem by switching your market, by the pivot, right?
Yeah, so we overcame that challenge by kind of switching our business into software. We had challenges there because we this is also was a new field for us, but I think that we were able to come at it from a hardware perspective. So ultimately, a lot of software companies also have difficult on the hardware side, and we have expertise in that. So we came at it from that side of the problem, and so I think we were effective in that. And now that I think we're very fluent in both hardware and software, it's given us an advantage in how to build these systems, because ultimately all of this interfaces with the real world, and you have to be kind of competent in both to succeed.
Got it, got it. Let's talk about another thing, which is remote work. Uh, what is your take on that?
So our company's been remote work from the very beginning, not because it was fashionable, but for economic reasons. It was much more affordable to hire a team overseas than it was to hire a team local to San Francisco on a very small budget. So we've been very familiar with that, and with tools like Slack that made collaborating a lot easier. It really simplified our communication. But we also, we had an office in San Francisco, so we were able to physically meet and work. And when you're building hardware, it's super important to, I think, collaborate on in person. But now that we've segued completely to software, we've moved to a fully remote model, and it's still working, but I think that there is,
There are pros and cons.
like, yeah, I mean, I personally
Yeah,
like meeting people in person, um, and I think so. There's a benefit of having kind of a hybrid model, in my view.
right. So, what are the pros and cons you have faced till now?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's sometimes solving problems. It's not something that you just can do through a chat, which is a very kind of low bandwidth communication. It's good to be able to speak to somebody, because you speak to somebody, you can get a point across a lot faster than sending 15 pages worth of emails, and I find that to be pretty counterproductive. So I do think that solving problems and the speed of and the momentum of building a business, it's important to have kind of that real interface. But we have to kind of I mean, we have like there's restrictions, right? Like, not, we don't have all of the resources available to do that. So So we have to play within kind of the resources that we have. So we make do with the hybrid model, and there's benefits of the hybrid. I mean, we have a team members around the world, so we're able to be up to 7, and we're able to work with people from different cultures, which is I think a pretty important for our company to be able to get different perspectives on how mobility is achieved, because we're not just looking to create mobility systems for the first world, but the whole world. And it's maybe in Asia it's predominantly mopeds, and maybe the US it's predominantly e-bikes, and maybe in other countries it could be golf carts. I mean, ultimately the vehicle doesn't really matter, but understanding kind of the the different requirements and needs is pretty important for our company.
So, how many countries right now representing in your company?
Uh, Probably 10. I mean, I think we're only
Okay,
10 people, and every person
it's from
is
a
from.
different country. So, is it planned?
No, I mean, we have team members in Africa, we have team members in India, team members in Russia, team members in Ukraine, team members in Taiwan, and then some here, and so it all works. Some in the Philippines, and but we're all able to come to work towards a common goal, um, and yeah, it's pretty great.
Nobody is from Pakistan, so that means we need to give you some resources from Pakistan
That's
as
right.
well.
Yeah. Please give us some resources from Pakistan.
So, do let us know what kind of resources you need, and we will provide that.
Okay.
By the way, let me tell you one thing. We recently integrated one solution with our staff augmentation services. So the problem we were facing earlier was that people were saying that monitoring is very hard when they were hiring people from us. So what we did is we give them CCTV monitoring of the resources they hire. We give them their screen recordings. We give them their webcams. So whenever they want to uh, see their resources who are working, they can just log into the platform, and they can look at their screens, they can look at their webcams, they can look at their CCTVs. So we have made very strong real-time monitoring for the people who were complaining about that. So that is one thing you should look into.
Okay. Yeah. That's sounds like a great tool.
Yeah. Okay. Let's move forward and tell us what is your vision now regarding Lattice.
So right now, we're in the process of building our own AI engine. We've taken kind of a very different approach, and ultimately, this AI engine actually could even be spun off as its own company, because I think the solutions are broader than just mobility. But the concept essentially started with a research paper that we wrote on complexity, and it's really just looking at how simple systems are able to become complex, and then be able to understand that mathematically, and then build AI algorithms around that. And so we're in the process of building I think a new kind of foundational AI that is really good at making decisions in really complex situations. And then we want to take that model and use it to solve mobility problems, but then also other applications as well.
Okay, in the last, I want you to give some advice to the aspiring entrepreneurs who are going to start their own SaaS businesses. So please.
Yeah, I mean, I think when I started Lattice, I didn't really know kind of where we're going to go. I mean, I had kind of you know, you're kind of looking to climb a mountain, but ultimately, you're really looking at just really kind of like what is the next step that I need to take, and you're just looking at your 2 feet, and I think that that's kind of the right way of building it. I mean, have kind of some aspirations of where you want to go, but ultimately, just every day try to accomplish 3 things, and that's kind of my perspective. I try not to overexert myself. It's very easy to do that. It's very easy to just work, you know, 15-hour days and to work every single day. But you got to understand that this is a marathon. It's not a sprint. And if you do that, you're going to burn yourself out after one year. and then you're going to quit and you're going to drop out. And it's I see it all the time. I see a lot of companies that they come out of the gates, and it's great, and then you start facing challenges. And I kind of think of it as, I don't know where I heard this, but it really resonates with me, is that life or business or anything, you're kind of like in a canoe on a river, and you always have these obstacles. And so what I think is really important is just think of just your job is just to overcome the obstacles. Every obstacle that you have, you just overcome it. Don't try to be upset that there's an obstacle. Just expect they're always going to come, and your job is just to go around them. Work your way around them. Don't be upset that they exist, because that's kind of part of building a business. Is you're going to get scar tissue. There's going to be a lot of challenges. It's mostly challenges, I think, than success.
Being a businessman, you should be prepared for that. If you are
That's it.
not, that means you should not come into the business.
It's a lot. It's going to be a lot of pain, and so I think the one aspect that you really have to learn is just how to be resilient. Just make sure that you can don't be overcome by the pressure of the challenges. Just do your best, and let your passion kind of guide you.
Right, right. So that was very insightful. And I hope the audience is also going to learn a lot from this. Thank you so much for the audience. And thank you so much, Jack, for the wise words.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks very much for having me on your podcast.
Thank you so much for watching us for that much long. And I hope you enjoyed the episode. Do subscribe us and keep watching so that we can bring more tech stars to your screens. Thank you. Have a nice day.